Kanta has today all the EPRs, all the prescriptions which have been written in social health care, in primary care or in the hospital care. And it's not just a repository of the information, it is also a way to have the data back when it's needed and where it's needed. So if you have been treated in the hospital care and you go to the primary care or to the next hospital, so the data follows you and it's possible to use the data. So same with the prescription. So we are sending, hopefully in the beginning of next year, when the Finns are going to Portugal, they can have the prescriptions in the Portuguese pharmacy. By the end of the year, we are testing that with Estonia in everyday life. We have tested that already between Sweden. And it's functional. But it's not just for the professional, it's for the citizens. So Ineke, me, or anyone in the Finland can go and see what's my medication, what's in my EPR, and also I can opt out, I can keep my care bills and so on. And do you know, it is the second popular website in Finland. So people love it. There are more than 1 million visits monthly in the system. And in this Kanta service, there are today more than 700 million EPRs, so documents, so it's electronic. So we are digitalized in that way. But this is not the whole story. We have a lot of data. I was telling about this part here, but we have also personal health record. So if you have a sport tracker or some wearable, and if you want, you can send the data to that part. And if you give your consent, it can be used whenever you go to the health services or visit your physician. We have a lot of data in our national social insurance system, like all over Europe. In our case, we have a history of living allowances, housing allowances, pensions, but also the medication history, which has been subsidized by the state. So actually we have a medication history for decades also. And we have, of course, digitalized systems in our health service. So all the healthcare service providers have their own ICT systems which are connected to Kanta. And what we have been developing is actually that there are now so-called data lakes, especially around the university hospitals. For instance, in the region of Helsinki, once an hour, the data from operational systems has been poured in a data lake where is it usable then for the other purposes, for decision making and for management and for research and development. So there are, for instance, AI systems which have been saving lives, like sepsis cases, saving babies before they are dying in the intensive care. We have National Institute of Welfare and Health, and there we have a long history of population registries and care registries. So we have more than 10 national healthcare registers with the patient identification from 1970s, and that's a richness. So we don't have to just look what is happening here today. We can go backwards and see what happened for this person during the life course. See the medication, see the cares, visits in the hospitals, and what happened. And we can combine in the worst cases to the causes of deaths and what happened there. But about the future, we are pushing up also centers of excellence on this area. We have more than, I think, 12 biobanks. There's one colleague of mine sitting, the director of Helsinki Biobank. You can visit him on that fair area and he can tell more about biobanks. And there's a rich biobank research area and actually cooperation going on. We have today genotyped 100,000 Finns, and in a year we are having 1/5 of our population genotyped. Actually, then we know the whole population, all the genes of our population in Finland. And when we are coming to the personal care, that's the key issue for tomorrow, that you can have your personal medication, your personal care, not just the diagnosed group-based care, but it's based on your personal genes and effective medication. Well, that was the data, but we have done that very, very difficult to use. But now we have changed the course, and we have been building a new legislation to enabling the secondary use of social healthcare data. The proposal from the government was given a year ago, and now it's in the final phase in our parliament, hopefully accepted by the end of this year. And the government has even put money for the next year budget to have this running up. So this legislation actually enables the use of all those data which I was just describing. And it doesn't just give it for the research, but it allows it for the development, innovation, management, education in the universities and high schools, and also for the management of the social healthcare and so on. It allows it for the authorities, research and development organizations, but also for the companies. We are opening this also for the companies, so not just for the public research. And we are building up a single access point, which is a permit authority and service operator. So when you need the data, you go there. What are the impacts of this new law? We are centralizing the licensing of the use of the data. We are building up a secure, safe environment that we can trust on it. And there will be one national, but there will be, of course, several, for instance, in the university hospitals. But there is in this new proposal 10 paragraphs. What is the safe and secure environment? How we can be sure that the data is flowing out? It enables individual use and combining of data from different sources, from biobanks, from care registers, from Kanta. And it, of course, improves the options for the research and development. We have faster access than before to this data. We have a very, very bad record here. The first case is when the Science Academy gave the financing for the research project. They got the data in the first cases after 2 or 4 years. What they did, not at least empirical research based on the data, because they didn't have that. This legislation forces us to be quicker. In 3 months you have to have the license, permission and the data in the future. It means that we are having more effective treatments, new medicines, and we can look about risk groups. Earlier it was especially forbidden that the data cannot be used for me. So if there was some medical innovation or service innovation, it was not allowed to contact me. Now we have done a legislation that if you find this kind of innovations, yes, through the service organization, through your physician, you can be contacted and you can be asked, please, would you like to have a better medication or better care so we can change your care plan? And of course, this is an option for new business activities and products for the services, which is very evident in the social healthcare. We quite often don't remember that more than half of our social healthcare business is coming from the private through different means. We are buying a lot through our procurement processes. And it's very important that we are having effective things from that side. I don't go to details. This is summarizing the big picture, but it's opening that we have still here all these data which I was describing, even my Kanta, my big data, national registers, local registers, personalized medicine data. We have these one-stop services here. And now we have here is the widening. After GDPR, it's allowed to use for the scientific research and development innovations for this data. But we have widened that GDPR in our Finnish case. So we have opened it for development and innovations, which is not necessarily always scientific. We have opened it for the management. We have opened it for the education in the universities. And we have opened it for the management of the social and healthcare. So supporting those professionals when they are doing their everyday work, if they are managers or if they are physicians or even if they are nurses. We have been preparing this implementation already, so Sitra has been supporting this. Simultaneously, when we have been preparing this new legislation, there has been a big project which is supporting and building up these services. So there's already existing one-stop shop electronic service portal. There are data lakes existing, which we have been piloting and evaluating. And so there have been development of metadata descriptions about these data files which we have. So we are building up this because we want to have this very, very fast up. So now we have sought, in a way, the secondary use. But what about my data? Which is actually a big question about what about the ecosystems? We, as citizens and as an individuals, persons, we want something. This is a study from Finland and it shows what also Ineke was describing. Yes, I want to see my data. I don't just want to see my data, but I want to know who's using my data. That's one of my privileges. And even if I want, I can prevent the use of my data. And the people accept quite a lot that there's somebody who oversees, looks after who's using that. So this is quite promising. We need this kind of trust. We have studied also the trust. Now I'm speaking about trust because it's very important. If we lose the trust of us, the system collapses. So at the same time, when we have been opening the use of this data, we have to build up trust and we have to build up secure and safe environments. And that's the reason I took this up. We can't live without this trust. And what is remarkable about, if you look about the percentages in this slide, is that at least in Finland, the people trust more on the public side. And the more we go to the private, the trust is diminishing. And we don't trust so much on internet or even insurance companies. We have something, we think that they are not fair. I don't know why. This is a good question. I think they should do some marketing. But what about the future? I was talking more about this blue line about when I was telling about the data options and possibilities to use in Finland. But this blue line is growing exponentially. The data which is collected by individuals, by unregulated data, by wearables, trackers, mobiles, etc. So that is the future where we have a lot of data to be used. This timing, what we have here for the single market in Europe, what was talked earlier, is remarkable. We have GDPR, which actually is a good thing because it gives us the right to have the data. We have PSD2, it's about banking. It's about that the bank information has to be open from the banks. We have eIDAS, which is an EU regulation on electronic identification and trust services. So we have already on the European single market level certain rules which we can use to build up future. And we try to do that in Sitra, in Finnish Innovation Fund. We decided to have a project which is called IHAN, International Human Account Network. I think all of you have a bank account. Who doesn't? All has, yes. So everybody knows IBAN. Well, think about if we could have something like IBAN, which could be IHAN. So I could manage my data with this kind and also the transfers of the data. So we try to find and found a fair and functional data economy based on my data, and not just by the data, but also on the data which is collected by the consent. And we try to build up a way how we can exchange this data, not just in Finland, but all around in the Europe, and build up ethical guidelines how we can use the data. And how we are going to do this. This is a complex picture, but I try to make it simple. Let's think about future. I have a wallet. I have actually my identification wallet. In some services I could be a Mickey Mouse if I want. If some services I want to be strongly identification, and it should be a strong identification. But in my wallet I can have a separate and different identifications, not just one. I use it whenever I need it to that service. So actually I have a wallet of identifications which I need. There's MyLog, and MyLog is actually a tool through which I can see where my data is located, has somebody used it, and I can also give license to use it, or I can opt out whenever. So it's in a way a real-time system where I can log and opt in and out, opt in and opt out. What does it mean? That perhaps in the future I am a traveler and I need data from health, I need flying tickets, I need hotel, I need actually all what I need for that to come to, for instance, to Düsseldorf, how to come from the airport to the hotel, and so on and so on. And I can build actually to myself through this green box service provider. There's a service provider who tells, okay, now you are going to the Düsseldorf and here's the package what you need. And if I authorize, this service provider can request for data from those data providers. And with that data, this service provider can build up a new service for me. And all the time I am actually managing not just the service but the data which is allowed to use for this. So this is a little bit revolution, so to say, and that is needed because if you look about West, we have some big companies who know everything about me and my data, and we don't manage it. In the West, in the East we have some states which know everything. In China, after 2 hours you have crossed the street against red, you are captured. So the state knows very well where you are. And actually European values are something else. It's based on us, it's based on our privileges, and we need this kind of systems to be competitive in the international markets. So IHAN in project in nutshell, we are establishing actually the principles and guidelines for this human-driven exchange framework. We are developing standard. Actually, we have started to work with Sensenelec. And we are also building up a architecture for this. And if you go to the websites and look about IHAN, you can see the blueprint. We are doing this really openly. Everybody can join who wants. And this is actually an international cooperation which is going on here. So this is not just for Finland, this is for Europe. And our aim is in 3 years to have it in Finland and also in 3 EU member states functional. Quite big task. We just have 16 people now working with that, but there are more and more in the companies. And this is not just for health, it's for the banking, shopping, all over in our society. So we are building up a common roadmap for fair and sustainable data economy. That's what our aim is, and to build up a governance model for that. Why? That's our life should be easier, and we could join about our life and with a happy fame. Just to make an advertisement at the end, so if you want to follow this or Finnish development or European development, so please welcome to Helsinki next summer in June. Then it's very nice weather, often not rainy, but it's very sunny. It's the midsummer time. And after that actually starts the Finnish presidency period in the second half of the 2019. And Finland has been in its own national policy forerunner in digitalization. In our national government program, digitalization is one of the key areas. And not just the digitalization, the data economy, data platforms, how we can promote it, but also the health has been always one of the key areas on these areas. And we have had health growth strategy coming over the ministerial silos in Finland, which we have been building up. And the government is now giving to Parliament an declaration about ethics of information policy during the age of artificial intelligence. So we are a lot talking about ethics also, and what does it mean when we are using data analytics and artificial intelligence, for instance, in healthcare. What's the role of artificial intelligence algorithms and professionals, for instance physicians, who's making decisions and when and where. So I'm pretty sure that health and digital issues are on our agenda on the last half on the 2019 when you were, Stefan, asking that. But perhaps we are looking a little bit differently than before, hopefully, on the European scale also. So thank you so much.
This was really a breathtaking journey, Hanno. Thanks a lot. And also, if you see the starting point of Ineke with her health records being lost between the 60s or the 70s and the 80s, and this project, so there seems to be an interesting perspective. So thank you very much, all of you, of course. But your two presentations fit in a special way together. So I think we have used up our time, but nevertheless, any remarks from the audience? We also have still micros, but if you do not have remarks, I have remarks myself. Okay, so maybe you just...
Thank you very much for the information. It was very interesting for me. Dr. Hanno already touched a little bit the topic. However, my questions would be also to Diego, Francisco Gomez, and Nicholas Kramer. Yeah, there are thousands of projects that are in the health sector that aim to support this innovative move 2020. And I was interested whether there are the entry point to e-action and to, because you already joined some of the countries, and in other countries separately, where these startups or the initiatives could come, approach you, and enter this healthcare ecosystem to improve your actions. Yeah?
Would you tell us where you come from?
I'm coming from Ukraine.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for the question. So, the e-action, it's open to receive all the contributes for all the industry or the universities or the science. We have open a call for integrate all the 42 entities. We have universities, countries, member states, and industry too. the cycle of the stakeholders for the third joint action, e-action, function like a European level association. But we are open to receive all the contributions for all type of contributions, and the startups are very welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I have to say I'm not an expert of the European neighbor policy, but I'm sure there are some sort of dialogues also on innovation in healthcare between the European Union and Ukraine. If it comes to Germany, how we are taking in the perspectives of startups and innovators. I mean, there are several instruments, I would say, or forum, let's say the policy level or the politicians, they are of course very keen to hear what you are saying, because you are sort of a very important driving force. If it comes to the Federal Ministry of Health, for instance, our minister, he set up a dialogue which is called Innovation Meets Politics, where we have each quarter now sort of a pitch in the ministry in order to support, meeting up between civil servants, let's say, with innovators to also get to know each other, because we are, of course, sort of living in different worlds. We have our perspective, you have your perspective, and then it is, of course, important to discuss on these matters, and we are trying to support this. Thank you.
It's the same in the Netherlands. We have a very friendly culture for startups, and there are several funds for funding the real startups and for scale-ups too.
Well, in Finland we have actually different means. So there are, of course, private capital investors, but then there's also Business Finland and Invest in activities, which are, but mainly if you want to come to Finland and ask for money, so contact Business Finland, which has actually the main part of the programs, even also in the healthcare. And they are promoting lots of these kind of things, also startups, but also service operators and innovative structures. They have been supporting innovation centers around the university hospitals and not just the test labs, but also ecosystems around the university hospitals, where actually we have good experiences about the cooperation with the ICT companies, but not with the ICT, also with the pharma. So there are actually, if you go to see the websites of the University Hospital Helsinki, so the address would be Clever Health Network, and there are more than 10 private companies cooperating with the university hospitals and the professionals and there. So there are different means.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Okay, one more question.
Thank you. I'm Leila Kosti, coming from a machinery equipment provider from Germany. I found all of your presentations very interesting and very topical, also from a point of view of machinery supplier, and that's why my question is a bit similar to the person before. Is any of your initiatives binding enough machinery suppliers, because those suppliers also provide machinery for pharmaceutical industries, food and beverage industries, and then that's also actually in relation to your digitalization in the health environment. So are we part of the ecosystem? Are we part of your discussion in terms of innovation as well?
I think normally, yeah. Sorry, but let me, because we are closing now. I I think normally, yes, of course, we have to think a little bit here and later. We are, just this discussion is a bit more focused, of course, on this political and networking level, but you see that those initiatives are all, let's say, approaching all levels, as it was especially clear in the presentation of Hannu maybe. But and in all these initiatives, of course, there's a place for industry, but I think the person standing here would not be, let's say, the right gateways on the other hand. So the initiatives overall are open and all will have entry points, but I don't think that, this is we are still a little bit, this is still a little bit of ivory tower, even if I said we want to go out of the ivory tower. So I hope you can accept this answer. So, okay, any?
I mean, if I may add to this, I mean, of course, you from a machinery provider level, you're also seeing how digital tools are also changing your products. At the same time, this is, of course, also a challenge from a regulatory point of view. We have, of course, the medical product device regulation, where we have certain challenges how to classify medical products and also machineries in that sense. And then from a health ministry point of view, we are also, of course, discussing how to, let's say, adapt our ways to get access to the healthcare market, the first healthcare market, to get statutory health insurance reimbursement. And there we are, of course, seeing how to let's say define digital innovation there, and how to set the reimbursement schemes. So we are indeed talking about this, and we are always keen about your experiences you have on these topics. Thank you.
Yes, and I was talking about standards, and the standards for interoperability are also a need for the industry. So if you make a product without the standards for interoperability with our EHRs, we have a problem, you have a problem. So we work together. We need to work together.
Okay.
Actually, there are different levels. In the first story about the Kanta service and EPRs, the Finnish system is very rude. You can't come to the Finland if you don't have a system which is Kanta compatible. So you have to have the information which is standardized, structured EPR if you want to come to the Finnish market as a ICT provider for the hospitals. And it's not an easy task. Epic, which is now coming and implementing that, actually did quite a job during the years to build it up, because they didn't have market in Finland. But this was not a market of advertisement of Epic, but I just wanted to tell that it's not always easy. But this means that you have to work, you have to have demands. But also when you are developing, for instance, when I was describing this iHand, they were looking the private partnerships so that actually they are providing the services. We are just building up the backbone and connecting, but they have to build the service. We never can be responsible for that. Otherwise, we are closing the development.
Okay, thanks a lot, the panelists. So then let's thank once more all speakers. And thank you for you staying with us and enjoy the rest of your day. We will continue here at 20 minutes past 1, 13:20 with a session on health apps improving patients' quality of life. So see you soon if you want to.